The Influencer's Edge is brought to you by the Rapid Sales Accelerator. If you're ready to skyrocket your sales by 30% or more in just 90 days, then you need to claim your free training right now. You'll learn 4 words that will compel your prospects to trust you like they were children within the first 3 to 5 minutes of any conversation across any platform and any medium. You'll learn how to give your prospects objection amnesia, to crush objections like, I need to talk to my spouse, or I need more time to think it over, or it's too expensive. If you'd like to claim your free training now, go to www.paulrossbook.com. Do it before your competition does it now. Welcome to the Influencer's Edge. This is the place where you come to get the latest breakthroughs, cutting-edge insights, tools, and techniques to leapfrog over the pack in sales, persuasion, and influence. Be sure you visit our website at www.theinfluencersedge.com. And while you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now sit back, tune in, and enjoy today's episode. All right, welcome back to the Influencer's Edge. Once again, I always want to thank my audience for making us the F and F-ity F. We did it, but we are ranked in the top 10% globally for marketing. And I don't know, thank you. Our guest today, who just gave me a round of applause for that neat, cool, where'd you get that purple background there, Shaté?
I mean, there are amazing things you can do in Canva.
Our guest is Shaté Hayes. And Shaté, I want to welcome you to the show. We had a little pre-talk. I explained to her how bizarre I am and how these interviews tend not to be interviews, but more like tabletop discussions. So, Shaté, I think biographies tend to be batshit boring, so you'll find me skipping through these. But first and foremost, let me just give the spiel that you sent me, or your publicist. Shaté Hayes is the secret weapon. Okay. That's like a stealth bomber behind countless career success stories. A former dancer, screech, put on the brakes. Okay. So what kind of dance did you do?
Oh my gosh, all of it. And I even I don't know if I'll ever be a former dancer. I'm definitely a former professional dancer, but dance is never leaving me. So I was trained in everything, ballet, tap, jazz, modern, and as a performer and choreographer, literally you name it, hip hop, house. I specialize in rhythmic styles. So, all the things I just mentioned, but there was one point I performed with the samba company, and then I also performed for a Venezuelan band and did salsa, merengue, and bachata. So it's like, if the music's good, I'll do it. I'll dance to it.
Hold on just 1 second. I'm adjusting our volume. My apologies. Okay, good. Did you ever get on Broadway or anything like that?
I was not on Broadway, but I did choreograph a ton of regional theater. And so obsessed with theater productions and, did some really great shows that I loved and adored. So good
Want to
times for
sing
sure.
Oklahoma with me? Oh, Oklahoma. I warned you, Shaté. Okay. Former dancer turned career and business strategist. Now that's an interesting leap.
Yeah.
How, first and foremost, so you're a dancer. I'm assuming you enjoy your career. What was the moment that you recognized that it was time to make a change, or was it forced
Yeah.
upon you? Did you decide to do it? What the hell? Share with us. Shaté
Yeah.
Hayes, former dancer. Yeah, how
Yeah.
did that happen?
There was once upon a time in my life where I would scoff at people who would say, "Oh, I used to be a dancer." I'd be like, "You used to be? Who gives this up? Who decides to leave dance again?" But you live long enough and you evolve, you grow. I did not anticipate that because I loved that career. Did it for like 12 years and got a chance to tour and just work all over and touch so many different lives and worked as an educator and went to grad school. Did all, just like anything I could have thought to do, I was fortunate enough to do it. What happened was, I'll give you the stories that, how did I get here? I'll pause on that, but I'll tell you why I ended up leaving. It didn't happen. It wasn't like a rock bottom moment. It was like a lot of different moments that I just started to notice that I was different. So in my final years, I was an adjunct dance professor, and I would, be getting ready for a semester. And I used to be so excited about the semester because I always got a chance to choreograph, the end of the year concert for all my classes. And this one particular semester, I was just kind of like, oh, it's time to do this again. It just kind of felt routine and
Yeah,
lifestyle.
like most marriages, I get it.
But then it's like, okay, not only am I teaching, most days all day, then I'm also choreographing theater in the evenings, rehearsals from like 6 to 10, weekends as well, travel to do, like adjudicate concerts and teach classes. And I think the final moment was I was leaving this festival that I was invited to attend and teach at. And I was just kind of like, I think there's more. My friends were like buying houses and building families, and I was still sort of like going where the work was. And I evolved and I wanted a different lifestyle. And so, just kind of as difficult as it was for me, I was like, I'm kind of ready to try something different.
Nonetheless,
Yeah.
it's a big leap from dancer to business
Hmm.
strategist.
Hmm.
That's a huge leap. So
Yeah.
tell us about the fear and the uncertainty and the doubt you must have felt. Because if you tell me you were absolutely certain that you could do it, I'm going to push back. Were you absolutely certain you could do it?
Well, the thing is, I was already doing it. So it was like, I will say this, the thing that I did experience that I didn't anticipate was the identity crisis. Like I was like, I chose this thing. Why am I all of a sudden feeling like, who am I? What am I here to do in the world? Like it was a really, really tough sort of like, who am I if I'm not dancing? And if I have to be some other profession, like I don't even want to leave the house. Like
How did
I don't,
that, how did you resolve that? Because this is a big thing when people make huge shifts. It's almost like when they lose another person.
yeah.
You don't just grieve the loss, you get confused with the question, who am I now? So how
Yeah.
did you resolve that?
I sort of worked through it, and that kind of answers the question like, how did I even get there? During my time as an educator, or actually it started to happen when I was in grad school, I was sort of thrust into this career resources course for undergrads. The department chair comes into the office for grad students and it's like, hey, we have this course that starts in 5 minutes for undergrads, career resources. Can you be the TA, the teaching assistant? You would have to go now. And I was like, yeah, of course, why not? And I fell in love with sort of being able to tell all of these dancers all the things I wish I had known when I moved to LA with $300 and no clue what the heck I was doing. And there was just such value there, and just they were so interested and curious and made way for me to, that's how professional development came into my life. So when I left my dance career, and I kept, that all through my curriculum, I was teaching dancers how to build their careers and like what you should be looking for, how to make it sustainable, how to audition. So when it came time to pivot, I just kept doing that. I kept, offering workshops. And by this time I was writing for like Dance Magazine or Point, all these kind of career articles. So it sort of evolved organically. And quite honestly, when I left my dance career, I didn't think, oh, now I'm going to do this professional development stuff. It just never left me. You know what I mean?
Cool. Well, we want you to
Yeah.
be honest because I'm trained in deception detection by a couple of them. I am. It makes
Good.
my dating life quite interesting. All right. Through her company, Career Steward, I like that name, she helps small businesses win contracts and build genuine influence. With experience leading career programs for thousands, Shaté has cracked the code on transforming hidden entrepreneurs into opportunity magnets. Hidden entrepreneurs, what in the diddly Sam Hill does a hidden entrepreneur, once again, is that like a stealth fighter? Hidden from whom? But what does that mean, hidden?
Hidden from their people. I would say, do you know that show Unsung, where they like tell the stories of, the artists, musicians, whoever that, you don't know. Maybe they had the one hit and you don't really know much about them. They're not the Temptations and the Gladys Knights of the world. It's like those folks, right? I think we all have a story to tell. And unfortunately, a lot of people think they don't. They think that what they've done is a snooze fest and it's not that interesting and it's not as sexy as having worked with Beyonce, or, not sensationalized like, a troubled past. So it's sort of finding the stories of their work, who they are, the value they add, the programs that they offer, the impact that they've had, and
So
being
what is
able
your
to
process?
share them.
I'm gonna push the pause button here.
Yeah.
So you said finding their story. How do you teach them to find their story? That's pretty broad. What is
Yeah,
your methodology?
I would say the first place to look is at what you're doing. Like, what actually are you offering? What are your programs? What are the outcomes of those programs? What's the story? Why do you do this? What are you excited about? What conferences are you part of? It's just telling those stories, I think, in a meaningful way, and in a way that bridges, like in a way that the people you serve kind of would care about. So it's really, I think, is just that simple. What are you doing?
What am I doing? I'm interviewing. Okay. So you talk about, I'm going to push back on this. Are you ready? You
Yeah.
talk about how we spend 90,000 hours of our lives working. I don't. I'm a lazy son of a bitch. So where do you get that? According to whom
Yeah,
we work
that
at 90,000 hours? Who said that?
that is not my stat. That is a reference from Happiness at Work, and that is something that is quoted in that book. They said over the course of our entire lives, that the average person will spend 90,000 hours having worked in some capacity. And I
Wow,
was like,
that is
ooh,
grim.
yeah, that's a
That's
lot of hours.
really grim.
Hmm.
This is really getting into alignment with my Buddhist way of thinking that life is filled with suffering.
Mm-hmm.
90,000 hours. Holy for
Yeah.
holies. Wow. Okay. Purpose aligned work. But that
Yeah.
that that trope that I'm purpose aligned. I remember there was a pastor, Rick something, who wrote a book called The Purpose Driven Life. He
Boy.
later was involved with a huge scandal and he
Mm.
was forced to resign. I won't get into the details of the scandal. So, what is it? It's a trope that's often used. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I know the book very well, the Rick Warren book, Purpose Driven Life. To me, I would say it is also like the Japanese concept of ikigai, right? It's like
Yes,
that
I know
flow.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Ikigai.
It's the flow. It is doing work that is aligned with, that sweet spot of what you're curious about, interested in, how you're serving, what you're, like that's that middle spot of life. And like if you're able to work in that, that to me feels purpose connected. And I don't think it has to be one thing throughout their whole life. Like, so I really don't like when people like a lot of people can put pressure on purpose. Like, I don't know my purpose. I'm not here for nothing, woe is me kind of thing. But it really can evolve, in my opinion. You could be like where you're meant to be in this one moment, and then you evolve, their circumstances evolve, and then now you're
Right.
meant to be somewhere else. So it's like sort of finding alignment with what feels right, feels like ikigai for this season of your life.
I love that you're familiar with these Japanese terms. I
Mm-hmm.
really, that's very good. I really like that. How did you get familiar with Japanese terminology for work?
Well, I'm a little bit obsessed with purpose, like, or the feeling or the idea of purpose. It came about in my dance career when I was kind of like, it really felt like it was bigger than me. Like, a lot of artists can get this rap of being egotistical and self-centered, but there are a lot of us who are like, feel like they are exactly where they're supposed to be at that moment. And even when I would perform or if I was in class, it just kind of felt like this. I'm a vessel of something bigger, right?
Right.
And so even in grad school, I studied like what's the intersection between spirituality and creativity? Like what's that middle ground? And so I've just kind of become obsessed about learning about what is purpose? What does that mean? What can it look like? How do other cultures or beings sort of intellectualize it or understand it? And I think it's all connected.
You bring up a really good point because here in Western civilization, our purpose is almost always, not always, but almost always involved with serving. Um, Let me put it this way: in cultures where individualism is not so hugely stressed, the purpose tends to be to serve the village or to serve the larger
Yeah.
community. So I don't know why that came up. I just figured I'd showcase my own brilliance for a minute. My apologies. So
No, no, I actually love that. And if I could double click on that, like I even think of sometimes my own purpose in that same way. Like what I'm doing is not to serve me. So if there were a village, I would like to be maybe known as the village career person. Like if you kind of got questions about what you might want to do and how you might get there, then I would, want to serve the village in that way. So I actually really, I get that. I dig that.
Okay, so let's talk about career fulfillment and generational health and wealth.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Okay, what do you mean by generational?
Yeah. I mean, again, bigger than you. You're thinking about the folks that are coming after you. You're thinking about legacy, what you're leaving behind. And when it comes to that idea, there are these two articles that I find really interesting. I don't know why more people aren't talking about them, but there's one in the Huffington Post that was like, when you hate your job, this is what it's costing you. And it lists all these things, anxiety, depression, but then physical things too. You're not sleeping, gut issues, like all kind of the spectrum of health issues. So that's one thing. And then there's this other article in Business Insider that's like people who love their jobs, they accumulate more wealth and they do it faster than people who don't. And so it's like career fulfillment literally impacts your health and your wealth. And depending on, how you look at it or what you're doing, that can impact generations to come as well. So it's super important in my opinion.
There's some famous person, I don't remember who it is, who said you can fail at something you hate, so you may as well go for something you love. I
Yeah.
forget what the story was, but I love this. This is very cool. It's in alignment with a lot of things that I think, therefore it must be true. Um, okay, you share practical insights on breaking negative career cycles while helping multi-talented professionals find their focus through service over skills. Huh.
hmm
Surely to be in service, you have to have skills. I don't
hmm
see how one trumps the other.
Yeah, I think it's more about how you're talking about them. I know you've heard this before. When you ask someone what they do, they might say something like, "Oh, I am a financial analyst for da da da," and I also teach piano lessons to kids in my neighborhood. Right? It's kind of disjointed, and a lot of times with multi hyphenates and with creatives, we are told to focus, like choose one thing, talk about the one thing. That's it. Which I get. If people don't understand who you are, what you do, they will not want to work with you. But I think for folks like us, that it's not necessarily about choosing one skill to talk about. I think the way to have the through line, to find the through line in all of your skills, is to really focus on the service before you focus on the skills. So I might say, I really, I'm a storyteller, a strategic storyteller. I love to help people, with their professional growth, and that's how I serve people. But the way that I get to do that, maybe with a little bit of writing and running programs, and like I get to sort of flex
I
all
get
these
it.
skills that I really like, and I think that's kind of the way to approach it.
I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm getting some of this already. So, what's the biggest mindset shift you see when people start focusing on service instead of just their skills?
The mindset shift, I think it's more of a confidence that happens more than anything. It's kind of like, oh yeah, they're sort of come into an alignment with this idea of themselves. Because I can tell you from personal experience, when I've been forced to sort of pick the one skill to talk about, like I'm only a dancer, and you sort of have to negate or ignore all the other parts of yourself, it feels a little, it just weird, like I'm giving you just a piece of me and not like the total picture of who I am. So when folks like actually are able to say, this cause is important to me and this is what I focus on, there's sort of like a, yeah, that's true. There's like a settling, a confidence, and sort of an awareness of themselves. I think that they get that helps them kind of approach the world differently.
Hmm. Okay.
hmm
I would think in making these kind of transitions, and this is something I'm reading a book now called The Scout Mindset. I highly recommend it. I would love to get that author on my show, Fat Chance, because she's like a superstar now. But she talks when you're going through a transition about leaning into confusion and uncertainty.
Mm,
Because I have come to see already, and then also just confirmed through her book, that in any kind of transition, you're going to have uncertainty. If you have
Mhm.
complete confidence, you're deluding yourself. I would
Yeah.
like you to speak to that point. If you agree, or if you think I'm full of shit, that wouldn't be the first time, I guess, indicated as such. And how do you help your clients bridge that gap to accept uncertainty and to accept confusion?
Ooh, I totally agree with it. It's just life. It's that it's called the messy middle, right? I've even heard it
I
in
love
leadership.
that. The messy
Mm-hmm.
middle.
Mm-hmm.
Again, sounds like my dating life.
And then there's like leadership, courses on sort of change management and like that middle sort of transition piece. It's definitely a thing where you are not quite what you used to be, but you're not quite who you're becoming. And like who the heck am I? Exactly what my identity crisis was, and then what I've experienced in every transition in my life since then. And so, in terms of like helping folks through it, it's really just about an acknowledgement. And to your point in this book, leaning into it. So it's sort of an acceptance of it. I always tell people like just because you take a leap of faith doesn't mean that you're going to, land in a perfect plie and on the other side of it and like ta-da, now I'm in my new life. It's like no, 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 no. You take the leap of faith and then you got to deal with all the crap right after it. So, it's
And
about being
you better calculate the odds. There may be other ways, like climbing down the mountain, climbing up the other one, or finding a way to create a bridge, because leaps are not always successful.
That's true. That's really good. I like that. I like that distinction. It's basically about when you decide to move from where you are, when you decide to move from that point and then
How
go
many
to the next
people
place.
Let
That's,
me ask you this, because you're
mhm.
experiencing this. How many people will only move when they're in so much pain? They think, fuck it, I got to do something different, as opposed to being driven by a vision. Everyone says create a vision, but I've dealt with a lot of people in my own career who they had to really go, this hurts so much. I'll move forward even if I don't have a clear vision. How
Yeah.
realistic is it? We get this advice, create your ideal future, smell it, see it. Who are you going to wake up to? What are you going to have for what? Who thinks of that detail? So, how often when you work with your clients do you find that they're moved by pain as much as they are by a clear vision?
Like the overwhelming majority of the time, 95%, maybe more of the time. And even if folks are coming to me sort of preparing for the moment where they can, run after something versus run away from something, it's still sort of like the language that I hear from them is like, well, I'm not ready yet, but I feel like I can stick it out here a little bit longer. Folks who are ready to act right now, it's almost always some sort of pain point, and they say that in this world that we're in, where the pain of staying stuck has to outweigh the fear of moving
Yeah, that's
forward in
because
order for
we're
someone
our
else.
brain is not evolved to keep us happy. It's evolved to keep us safe. So we're going to look for
Mm-hmm.
the downside unless we can train it. Someone told me the other day, happiness is a work ethic. You have,
Ooh.
in order to be happy, you have to have a work ethic to work at it every day, which being a batshit crazy human being, I found that to be the case more strongly.
Oh,
You
that's
see,
good.
you
Yeah.
see how we have not really talked about the technical aspects about what you do, but more about you as a human. I really
Yeah.
because people can read your book. I'm sure you have a free gift, and we'll talk about that in a minute and find out the technical side. But I always want to highlight and bring out the human being who I'm dealing with because it makes it more fun for me, frankly.
Yeah. Definitely much more interesting convo. So great job, Paul. This has been great.
Thank you. I just love to be praised. There's something. All right, we're at the end of our time here, but I know my audience is going to want to stay in touch with you.
Mhm.
90,000 hours. I am now going to go and take a 5 hour nap just to bring it along and dance my way into happiness. So, how does my audience stay in the conversation with you, Shate?
Yeah, I've got a tool for multi hyphenates creatives like me who've got all the skills and they want to figure out what's that service first, language for them. At lightmycareermatch.com. If you go there, we'll be plugged in. You'll get all my career stories and faux pas and fumbles and all of that emailed to you, and we'll be connected. So, lightmycareermatch.com.
Do you speak by any chance? Are you a
I
speaker?
I do lots of conversations like these on podcast episodes, but this year I am taking my conversation to the stage. So yeah, TBD.
Good. When we get on, when we're in our green room post show, I'll give you a hint on
Okay.
my tips for doing that. All right, Shaté, thanks. I'm glad you allowed me to play with your head a little bit, and it was fun.
It
And
was.
ladies and gentlemen, who knows who will have on the next episode of The Influencer's Edge? Who knows? Will it be a spy? Will it be someone who claims to have seen crashed alien craft? Will it be your ex spilling the tea on all your dirty, filthy, perverted secrets? We don't know. But make sure you tune in for the next episode of The Influencer's Edge. Shaté, thanks for making it a great show.
Thank you.
The Influencer's Edge is brought to you by the Rapid Sales Accelerator. If you're ready to skyrocket your sales by 30% or more in just 90 days, then you need to claim your free training right now. You'll learn 4 words that will compel your prospects to trust you like they were children within the first 3 to 5 minutes of any conversation across any platform and any medium. You'll learn how to give your prospects objection amnesia, to crush objections like, I need to talk to my spouse, or I need more time to think it over, or it's too expensive. If you'd like to claim your free training now, go to www.paulrossbook.com. Do it before your competition does it now. Thank you for tuning in to The Influencer's Edge, where you get the latest breakthroughs, cutting-edge insights, tools, and techniques so you can leapfrog over the pack in sales, influence, and persuasion. Remember to visit our website at www.theinfluencersedge.com to enjoy even more great episodes like this one. We look forward to seeing you again on The Influencer's Edge Show.